Okay, hello again. This is now the Tarot Process Part 4. And I want to begin with a little bit about the Seven of Batons, and then I'm going to talk about the Five of Pentacles. So somebody called Captain Nolan left a comment about the last video, I think it was. And he said that with the Seven of Batons, you've got the person on the top of the hillock. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it's a bit like you could look at that card as showing somebody reaches the top or they reach the high point, but it's been a struggle or they've used an awful lot of energy getting up there, that all they've got left is trying to maintain where they are. And that's why they're looking back at the people, or they're looking down at the Batons that are kind of opposing them. And that's a good point. So I wanted to, so that idea that you've reached the point, the high point, and you need to recover a bit, or you've only got energy left to look behind, is kind of different from underestimating your own power. So it can be like, what do you say to what's the correct answer? What do you say to the person? And I think what you do is, you know that, let's say the Seven of Batons turns up, whatever you remember, whatever you talk about, whatever you noticed about the card and what you talk about, that's the right answer. So maybe with one person you would talk about underestimating your own power. With somebody else you talk about, as Captain Nolan said, you've been maybe more tired out than you think you are from the struggle to get to where you've got to. So let's say you say that. I think what's important to remember also with the reading is the questioner is going to do something with the information that you give them. So maybe Captain Nolan says you've struggled to reach the top and you haven't got much energy at the moment. Maybe the questioner takes that and thinks, okay, I should stop being so hard on myself and take a break. So maybe I give myself a month to get settled in the new position. Then I'll look forward and then I'll plan the next step. So rather than Captain Nolan saying, what you do is you relax for a bit, that doesn't, okay, maybe they'll think, well, I don't want to relax. But if you, by presenting the idea that you've struggled to get to the top and you may not be as strong as you think you are, then the questioner is giving themselves permission to relax and to do something sensible. And I think that's helpful. It would be helpful to know that. And then the questioner does something with the information rather than being given a direct prediction or direct instructions on what to do. You're planting seeds in a way in the questioner's mind, or giving them ideas that they can then develop on their own, at their own speed and in their own time. But sometimes we think that somebody asks a question, we're supposed to know everything and give them everything they need to know and solve all their problems for them. Sometimes you can, but I think a lot of the time, and in some ways greater value comes from suggestions and letting the questioner make more sense out of the information that you're giving them. I need to look over here. Okay, so the Five of Coins. This is a difficult, well, people sometimes struggle with the Five of Pentacles because you've got the man and the woman in the snow, and it's supposed to be poverty, need, and insecurity. I looked on Google to see what people would give for meanings of the Five of Pentacles. And that seems to be a general idea that it shows need, insecurity, and poverty, that kind of thing. When it's upside down, some people say, or some people will tell you, it makes it even worse. Other people will say, on the other hand, the Five of Pentacles upside down, things are getting better. There's going to be relief, improvement, and charity were some words that I found with the Five of Pentacles reversed. And you can understand why they say that's what the card means. However, let's say the question is, will I sell the house? and you turn a card and you get the Five of Pentacles. Does it mean yes or does it mean no? Yes, you're going to sell the house, or no, you're not. Which it shows poverty, supposedly. But how far do you take it? Does it mean no, you're not going to sell the house because it shows poverty and things are going to get even worse? You're going to lose your job and lose your car and all the rest of it because it shows poverty. At what point does the poverty stop? And I don't know how you would tell that from using the meaning, or the supposed meaning, of the Five of Pentacles, because it shows poverty. And what else? We've got inequality and need. You're going to be in need. So will I sell the house and you get the Five of Pentacles? Does it show yes you will or no you won't? I don't know. However, if we look with yes, no questions, you can look at the card. If a card is upright, it means yes. If it's upside down, it means no. And that's I think it's a good general rule for looking at cards. So an upright card can mean yes and, or it can mean yes but. And a reverse card can mean no and or no but. Because it can mean yes, but it's not quite going to work out the way you think. Or it can mean no, it's not going to work out, but something good is going to develop out of it. So let's say you've got, the question is, will I sell the house? And the answer is the Five of Pentacles, upright. It's upright, so yes, you're going to sell it, but you're not going to make as much money out of it as you think you are, or as you want, because it's Five Pentacles and the couple are out in the snow. So be prepared to drop the asking price. Because let's say you want $500,000 for it, you're only going to get $425,000. So think about how much you can afford to give up, because it looks like people are not going to want to buy or pay what you want. Will I sell the house? The Five of Pentacles upside down. Upside down means no, it's not going to sell. Why not? You want too much money for it. Or else it could be something like, people want to buy it, but it's a conditional offer. So if I can sell our house, I'll buy yours. But then it turns out that they can't sell their house, so they can't buy yours. And that can be the Five of Pentacles upside down. It doesn't look like it's going to work, but not because there's anything wrong with the offer, but the people who actually want it are unable to go through with the sale or the purchase. So that's one question, will I sell the house? The second one I wrote down was, will I get the job? So again, will I get the job? Poverty, need, insecurity. Does that mean yes, you're going to get the job, or no, you're not? I don't know. If you use a meaning, an apparent meaning, it can be very difficult to answer the question. And you don't want to just ramble on and not really answer the question, because that's not helpful for the questioner. So will I get the job? And again, the Five of Pentacles upright. Yes, you'll get the job because it's upright, but you look at the picture and you've got the man and the woman outside and the warmth inside the building. So yes, you'll get the job, but you're going to find that the people you're going to work with, there's a group of them already who know each other. And it's a bit like you're the outsider and you're not going to be able to break into their group. So you feel lonely and isolated, even though the people are doing the same work and you're having to associate with them. So it's yes, but. It's as if or maybe there's a culture and a way of doing things within the company, and everybody who works there goes along with it, but you don't like the culture, or you don't fit in. And maybe on a Monday everybody talks about football, or everybody talks about maybe a TV show that everybody watched on the Sunday night, and you've no interest in the TV show, or you're not interested in football. So in some way you don't fit. I forget what I was going to do next. Okay, so the other question could be, or a similar question could be, how will the job go? You've got the job, or you've got a job, and you want to know how it's going to go. And you get the Five of Pentacles. Again, poverty, you're still going to get paid, but how does poverty fit in with how will the new job go? In this case, you can think usefully, I think, of coins as not money but values, what people care about. So, and with the Five of Pentacles upright, yes, the job will go, but you're not going to get on. You're not going to like the people because they're different from you, or they don't have the same goals or the same ideas or the same way of doing things. So it could be that you join a department and you want to work hard and get the job done, but the people that you work with like to remember. Have you seen Office Space, the movie Office Space? I can't remember the names of the people, but it's like he shows up 15 minutes late and pretends he's working and kills time. That could be the kind of people you work with, but you don't really like their attitude with the Five of Pentacles upright or reversed. So I'm thinking, look at the picture and understand what's going on in the picture, and then relate the activity to the question that's been asked. The other thing is, let's say how will the job go? The Five of Pentacles upside down. You're going to be given extra work that you're not going to be paid for. So maybe what you do is be sure about your job description, and maybe include some clauses or a clause that if the job description changes, you're not just going to have to do what you're told, but you have to be compensated correctly. I know one fellow who was in charge of a circulation department for a bunch of magazines, but then things happened and things changed. He ended up having to fire people, and he hated it. But it sort of developed into what he did or what his job involved, and it was nothing like what he signed up for. And that could be the kind of situation you would get with how would the job go with the Five of Pentacles reversed. Okay, then somebody might want to know, how is my life going to go? And you get the Five of Pentacles in the future, let's say. So you don't want to, you probably don't want to predict, yes, you're going to be poor and insecure and everything's going to fall apart. But remember the Lover's card. That's Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, where they could live forever. But they didn't, because Eve was tempted and ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and Adam followed suit, and they were cast out of Eden. So they were no longer able to live forever, which they would have been able to do if they had obeyed and if they'd eaten from the tree of life. But they didn't. So maybe the Five of Pentacles shows Adam and Eve once they've been cast out of the Garden of Eden. And it's the consequences that you pay for, I don't want to say disobedience, because I'm not saying there's an angry God who wants you to obey, and if you step out of line, he'll hit you over the head with a ton of bricks. But it's more like Eve was tempted. So maybe with the Five of Pentacles as your future, it could be important to consider, in what way were you tempted? What did you do that you knew you ought not to do, but you did anyway? And you have to live with the consequences of that decision. I'm not saying don't do it, but understand that there's a connection between what you do and what comes back to you. So again, going back to the earlier point, you talk about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and consequences and temptation. That's going to make some kind of sense to the questioner. And so maybe they'll take away from the reading, I better make sure that the things that I do, I really want to do. And that if I get this little bell in my head saying don't do it, that I pay attention to myself. And that can mean that later they stay out of trouble that they would have got into if you hadn't talked about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. I had something else to say. And I wrote down here, what's wrong with the knowledge of good and evil? So, because in Eden you've got the tree of life and you've got the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so what's wrong with knowing good and evil? Why are we told that if knowing good and evil will lead to death rather than life? And I can't remember if I've already skipped, but when it comes to your future and you're represented by the Five of Pentacles, I think what you have to do is, if it's going to give you more life, do it. If it's not going to give you more life, don't do it, as a general rule. So what's wrong with the tree of knowledge of good and evil? And I think the reason is, it morphs into its opposite. So there's a line in If by Rudyard Kipling where he says, when you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat these two impostors just the same. So triumph looks great, you're on top of the world, but it turns into restriction or something else. And in the same way, disaster, if you learn something good from or learn something from it, turns into something good. And you end up better off than you would have been if you hadn't had the experience of the disaster in the first place. And it's a bit like, if you go with good and evil, then you never know what you've got, because it's going to turn into the opposite. And there's a line in Bob Dylan, you find when you reach the top, you're on the bottom. So people sort of want to be celebrities, or they want to be big movie stars or rich and famous. But the trouble is, you become rich and famous, and then you need a lawyer and a stylist and an accountant and a driver, and you can't go to the store because you'll be recognized, and you get paparazzi interfering in your life. You have no private life. Then you meet people and you don't know whether they mean it, they like you, or whether they're just liking you because they want to bask in your reflected glory. So celebrity seems great, but the reality is probably quite bad. So that's why we're told to stay away from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It looks good. It's very tempting, but it's not an answer. Life is the answer. Okay. So the Garden of Eden and heaven and may seem like this fantasy and nothing realistic, but that's partly why I mentioned a couple of videos ago Alexander Wall. Remember, with his piano? And he says that with the correct balance of playing and listening, you reach a point, a slot in your brain where nothing exists but everything works perfectly. And that's heaven. And the same way that Vinny talked about, everything just works. It just takes care of itself. So this may mean nothing to you, but I bet that if you think back in your life, there will have been times when things fell into place. An example I thought of was, let's say you're going to meet somebody and there's a big crowd of people, and you look and you look and you look, you can't see them anywhere. Then you stop trying, and suddenly the person's right in front of you. Was it coincidence, or is that heaven, where nothing works, but nothing exists, but everything works perfectly, or everything comes together, takes care of itself? You stop trying to find the person, and you find them. So I think that if you were to think back in your life to little things that happened where things just flowed together, but we tend to ignore and downplay things happening. We think, it's just coincidence. But maybe it wasn't. And maybe if you were to think about when things have gone well or when things have happened and you didn't have to try, but it's at moments like that, I think that you have a direct connection with life. And that's what we're supposed to develop. A connection with the tree of life, rather than thinking that we control things and we can make things happen. Because it's when you stop trying, that's when it works. So this idea of consequences and temptation it fits as an answer to a question about how am I supposed to live my life. But if the question is, will I sell the house? Consequences, that's not what you want to answer, or how you want to answer. So the question is always important, I think, and that is the starting point for giving an answer. Okay, I don't know how long I've been going on, but I better stop. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you in a couple of days. So the other thing is, if you discover or realize a moment or an event in your life where things just happened, and it was incredibly useful and perfect, and all fit together, maybe leave a comment and say what happened or what you discovered, and that can be useful for anybody reading the comments to find out that this kind of coming together happens in the lives of regular people. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.